Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about Warhammer 40k and a subject that I'm not very familiar with but love and enjoy, which is kitbashing. So as some of you I'm sure are familiar with, there's been numerous releases over the past couple of months with multiple models and sets and custom creations that you can combined and make into a wonderful army. And some of us love that. You know, if you're going for the Space Marines, the Indominus box set might be for you. But if you are just like a regular player like me who loves the Space Marines but not necessarily into wanting to get the whole Necron side of things, I would say that kit bashing together some of those Necrons to create your own customized army might be the way to go. For some of us as well, we might even think about putting those Necron armies up for sale on, say, eBay or Etsy, or I don't know, maybe if you can somehow find a way to sell those units on Amazon, that's perfectly fine. But it's always fun to maybe keep those kits available for yourself. Just to, you never know if something might come along that sparks your interest or says to yourself in your mind, hey, if I take this part and add it to that part, what would I get? And for some people, that may be a little tricky. You may be thinking, okay, well, how do I combine all of this? Do I just use plastic glue? Do I want to go out and get some green stuff and plastic glue? Or do I just want to, mix and match and bash some of these, models together? That's the term kit bash. For me, when I got the Indominus box, I built the Space Marine side of the box fairly quickly. And, push to fit models. Should be pretty straightforward, pretty simple to build those armies. I believe I sat with my wife and built all of those Space Marine models in the span of a single afternoon. Fairly easy, fairly straightforward. With the Necrons were a little bit trickier, especially with the bigger units, and I just wasn't happy with the Necrons. So a little bit of a background history for me. I got into Warhammer 40k through some crazy miscellaneous means. It started out because of my anger toward, I don't want to say anger, it was kind of just frustration a little bit with the whole Star Wars community in general. Now, I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody. Everybody has their own opinions on the sequel trilogy. Some like it and think it was great and that they took it in such a wonderful directions. Others are like, could live with it, could do without it. But for me, as a huge Star Wars fan, I was not happy in the direction that they were taking the series. And for me, there was a lot of angst and a lot of highly opinionated individuals on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch and Instagram and Pinterest and what have you, just basically saying, we don't agree with this. We don't like the direction that this is going. And I kind of tended to agree, but I just didn't want to be a part of that fandom anymore. I didn't want to be a part of the social discord that Star Wars was falling into. So for me, I was looking for a new hobby, a new outlet, a new thing to sink my teeth into. So lo and behold, I'm also a gamer, as my channel description will suggest. And, I've been playing a lot of games over the past couple of years, and one of the games that was out at the time, I never really picked it up, but I was aware of it, was a wonderful game, Warhammer 40k Space Marine. Now, a lot of you probably know this game. If you're a Warhammer fan, you've played it. It's a wonderful game. Kind of on the same lines as, I would say, Gears of War. Very Gears of War-esque. And the fact that you get the chainsword. And the chainsword, mind you, is of course one of the more beast weapons that you can get in Warhammer. All of us love the chainsword. And I became aware of this game through my best friend, Rob McAllister. Rob was always trying to get me into playing that game. just for the fact that it's violent, bloody, and over the top, straight up action, which I love, and he knows it. So when I finally picked up that game, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this out. It's from the Ultramarine perspective, and I was like, okay, cool. But the thing is, going into that game, I didn't know much else about Warhammer 40k other than there's a large-scale human Imperium, that they fight orcs, they fight chaos, and the prime units of those armies is the Space Marine. So I decided, I want to know a little bit more about the lore and history of these Marines and chaos in general, and what the heck is this universe even really about? So for some of us, I'm sure you've all had different points of kicking off your Warhammer adventures on the lore, and that's perfectly fine. I'm all for going in different directions with the lore based off of what you know and how you learned it. For me, I of course learned it through a video game. So I kind of just went in there and researched online the General Imperium Space Marines. And brings me to my point here. This is where I learned about the Horus Heresy. Now, obviously, the Horus Heresy, when I got into it, which was back in early to late 2019, the Horus Heresy, I believe at that time would have been 50 to maybe 53 books long. Oh boy, there's no way I'm going to read all 53 books and get caught up. Just not practical. It's going to take too long, it's going to cost too much money, and it's going to waste too much of my time. As much as I love reading, and I do consider myself a fast reader, I was, kind of hesitant to drop that much money on 53 books. So, as of course we all know, there's this wonderful thing called the internet. So I went on there and I kind of wikied the Horus Heresy, and lo and behold, came across, certain major events that all the armies kind of either intersect at or connect with. So, of course, I went and I did order the first 3 books, Horus Rising to Galaxy in Flames, and just read all 3 of those books, which were great. Really good reads. Highly recommend them, especially if you can find them. I know that they had new limited edition releases of those books, so if you can find them, suggest reading them. And from there, I kind of got caught up. Now, as everybody knows, the 3rd book in the series, Galaxy in Flames, ends with the wonderful battle of Isfahan 3. And from there, it kind of splits off into other novels that you can either read or discard, or maybe skip over if you need to get to the book that details and goes into depth about the certain factions that you like. Now for me, the next book I read after Galaxy in Flames was, of course, I believe is book 4, called Fulgrim, and that's detailing the Emperor's Children. Loved that book. And then I also read The First Heretic. Now, The First Heretic details what I believe to be one of the sadder but more intricate storylines about the fall of chaos and the rise of chaos, and then what is chaos's overall goal in the galaxy, which of course is to destroy and overthrow the Imperium and get rid of the Emperor. But it introduced me to the Word Bearers. And I like the Word Bearers. I think they're kind of cool. I know a lot of people would disagree with me that they do not like Lorgar. He's a little whiny little bitch. Yeah, he is. But from there, I was like, I want to learn a little bit more about these Word Bearers. What's up with them? These poor souls, all they wanted to do was give reverence to the Emperor. Yet they get their butts handed to them by the Emperor. They get put down by him. The Emperor goes, I don't want to be worshipped as a god, yet I have these godly powers. Leave me alone. Well, I went out and I picked up what I consider to be one of my favorite Warhammer books of all time, which is the Warhammer 40k Word Bearers Omnibus. And I read that, and in that book, you have the Word Bearers searching and finding a rare Necron artifact, which brings me to the Indominus box and the Necrons I originally mentioned not having a huge interest in. So, in my mind, and I want everybody who watches this video to think this as well, when you look at Warhammer 40k, do the models look the way your mind imagines them to look? And to which I mean, does the description match what you think these models should look like? Occasionally, the model developers get those descriptions and get those characteristics spot on. There's other times, however, where a description of a model in the book does not necessarily match up to what we have in the form of a model. And that's where you go to do some kitbashing. Now, for me, like I said, I was never a huge fan of the Necrons. If you have seen my first video, which is only about 27 seconds, I kitbashed together a ghostrider-esque kind of outrider from the Indominus box. I did so because I'm not happy with the way the outriders look. I think they could have had a little bit more detail. There's a little bit more opportunity for advancement in that, a little bit more for the armor plating, maybe a bit more armament, and just ornamentation as well on the model. So if you haven't seen my first video, I will show you what my Ghost Rider model looks like currently. This is the Ghost Rider model as it currently stands. I just recently put on a whole layer of typhus corrosion on the model's main armor frame. Now, you may be thinking that's a little bit uncharacteristic, a little unconventional, and I would agree. However, the point of doing this is I want the armor for this model to not reference any other army. This is the Rider. I'm just going to call him that for now. I don't want to call him Ghost Rider because, let's face it, Ghost Rider's been taken. Marvel has the full acclaim to that. But in my mind, I just want Space Marines to think this guy is a dead Space Marine brought back to life who rides his bike into war and uses this flaming flail chain and has the flaming skull and flames on the back of the bike, which you can kind of make out on the back there. It's just a little bit right there. I'm sorry, or a little bit right there on the back, which I am going to make into flames later. So I kind of just want to break my own lore and history behind this model. Now, in no means would this ever be usable on the battlefield of Warhammer 40k or on the tabletop. But it just looks cool and it's fun to make. So next I want to go into, of course, the Necrons. And the first thing I did was, well, I took apart one of the Necrons, and then I also just recently got the Fabius Bile model. And as everybody who has the Fabius model knows, that he comes with a little miniature assistant. Now, my understanding of this and looking at the rules for War of the Spider, Fabius Bile has what's known as the disgustingly created creations of bile, or just as everybody knows, the creations of bile. So I decided to go into I went into my head and said, well, if I was Fabius Bile and I knew about the Necrons and I was able to destroy some of them but wanted to experiment on them, what would I do? To which I came up with what I considered to be the Necron Spider. He's just a little bit of a assistant / weaponized unit for the Necrons that Fabius Bile has by his side. It's one of his little miniature weapons of war / assistants, just running around beside him, just messing people up as he goes. Next, I said to myself, okay, I like the whole idea of the spider aspect of the models. And if I were Fabius Bile and this is the War of the Spider, and the Necrons are rising up, you have the Silent King returning. Fabius Bile knows that Typhus is after him because Fabius stole one of Typhus's relics. If I'm Fabius Bile, I'm going, okay, I need an advanced army of my own to stand up to Typhus and his, Death Shroud and the Death Guard. What am I going to do? So finally, I decided to take a little bits and pieces of some Nurgle design, as well as some Necron design, and came up with what I do not have a name for this yet. So if anybody in the comments section wants to make up a name, please feel free. But I came up with what I think is a very gnarly Necron spider. I don't know how I'm going to paint this. There's a part of me that wants to use one of the new silver contrasts that I just recently bought, which I thought would be pretty cool to use on it. But I'm also thinking some kind of metallic red or flaming red for some of the parts of the metal. If I can pull that off, I'm certainly going to do it. I'm hoping I don't have to repaint this whole area here. I kind of took a piece of a Nurgle's plague drone, and that is the piece that you see here with the mouth, with the open mouth coming out of it. That's the plague drone that I originally had. But I really think that this came together pretty well. Of course, there's a lot of mixing and matching and a lot of testing prior to finally gluing this on. As you can see on the bottom here with the armor plating and then with the Nurgle skin armor piece that I have right there, I used a lot of green stuff to put this thing together. I'm hoping with my next kit bash that I don't have to use so much green stuff, but as of right now, it kind of fits and it looks good. It definitely looks like something that would go into the Warhammer 40k universe. And I think that's the point. I'm going to close with that. The whole point of reading the novels, kit bashing, creating your own units, creating your own custom armies, your own custom paint jobs, what have you, is just the fact that you just want to have fun and be creative with the models and bits that you have. You never know what you're going to be able to create. Your imagination is limitless. Don't hesitate to use it, and don't hesitate to ever try or attempt something that's fun and creative. If you think it's going to look cool, if you think it's going to just be cool for your own self, and you just want to display that model later, please, by all means, you should do it. Don't be afraid to post your models online and ask questions. I think that's one of the great things that we have here in the Warhammer 40k community, is that everyone has opinions and suggestions, but they're all well received and well intentioned opinions. So don't be afraid to ask questions and reach out to others to see what other ideas that they may have to help you with your kit bashing. I hope that's been a bit of informative. I know that's a bit of a rant, but I will be back next time on another video, and I am hoping to post something soon in regards to a finished paint job for this guy. This is going to be my ghostrider, and I am looking for maybe to add some additional details to the base of this. I'm not exactly sure what my plan is for that. Might put a whole bunch of skulls on the bottom and just make him, a collector of skulls. He has a bunch of skulls already on the side of the bike, and I like that. I'm going to keep those there. Those were very tricky to paint on, and just a lot of plastic glue. A lot of patience, too, because they were sliding around. They kind of slid off. But my hope is to have this guy done soon, and he's going to just be a display model, of course. If my brother-in-law, who I play the most of my games against, does allow me to run him, I'm probably just going to use the basics melee and attack stats for an Outrider per the Indominus rules and box set. I don't currently have the current Space Marine Codex, but that's not a problem for me. As long as you have the rules from one of the box sets, I think I should be fine to run him. But I'll have to see how my brother-in-law feels about that. My buddy Rob, who also plays as well, he's not going to care one way or the other. If we ever end up playing a game, he's probably just going to say, yeah, go ahead, do it. I think he would have a kick out of trying to kill this thing. I'm not exactly sure on the number of wounds that a Outrider has, but I can always check. And if anybody wants to let me know in the bottom, in the comment section, that'd be great as well. But for now, I'm going to leave the video here, and the next time I post, hopefully I will have this ghostrider model up and painted. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.